Well, welcome everyone to the John Quintero Show, San Diego Sports Talk on YouTube. Boy, it's good to be with you. We didn't do a show on Friday, coming off the Thanksgiving holiday. And boy, I sure hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. We had a marvelous Thanksgiving. And I got to tell you, I didn't eat too much. I said to my wife after we got done with our turkey dinner, I go, man, I'm glad I didn't eat too much because I remember years ago, we'd have these big, big family gatherings, and I would always be very uncomfortable after we got done with dinner and want to walk around, but it felt like a toad. And this year I didn't eat as much as I normally have, and it was very comfortable. Watched a lot of football, watched some Hallmark movies this time of year. Man, I'll tell you, those Hallmark movies can get to me a little bit. And if you haven't watched them, they can get pretty tender. But nonetheless, had a great holiday. Great holiday. Friday, I went down and I watched the Rady Children's Invitational. Saw two great basketball games. BYU beat North Carolina State in the third place game in an incredible final game. Purdue scored with point 0.6 seconds to go on the clock to win their ball game against Ole Miss. And it was a great, great day of basketball. And I went up to Coach Painter, Matt Painter, the head coach of Purdue, after the game, and I congratulated him on the win and shook his hand and thanked him for bringing his team out to America's finest city. And he looked at me, not knowing me, and said, "Hey, thanks for having us." And I think all the teams that came, NC State, who had a great run in the NCAA tournament a year ago. BYU got a really good team, and Ole Miss, Chris Beard, who I think is a fantastic coach, and Purdue. I think all four teams came out and probably enjoyed the tournament. Not sure North Carolina State really enjoyed it. They got beat both days, but nonetheless, they played against great competition, great fan support. Congratulations to Mark Neville and to Rick Schloss and all the people that put on the Rady Children's Invitational. Fantastic event. Next year, they got Kansas coming. And can you imagine that? When they put the tickets out for that, that thing's going to be sold out like in 5-10 minutes. But a great event. Second year they've had it. And just, the final game was incredible. I mean, really a heck of a game. Back and forth. Purdue led most of the game, and then Ole Miss went up, and they gave up the 7-point lead with only a couple minutes to go, and Purdue ends up winning it by a bucket. Fantastic ball game. And so then on Saturday, I went back down there to UCSD because I think most of you know by now I call the games on ESPN Plus for UCSD, and they were playing a Division III team. We knew it was going to be a blowout, and it was a blowout. But it's always fun calling basketball games, and Lion Tree Arena is such a cool place to be. And I think a lot of people are starting to figure out, what that place is all about. But nonetheless, I had a great Thanksgiving holiday. But it's really good to be back on the air with you folks today. We got so much to talk about. In fact, I had people sending me messages all weekend. Man, coach, you got so much to talk about. What are you going to talk about? Well, the first thing I'm going to talk about is that great win by the San Diego State Aztecs on Saturday against number 6 Houston. I said when they got beat by Gonzaga, I said they're going to be okay. They're going to lose some games. There's no doubt. They got a bunch of new players, and they're going to figure it out. And in the last 4 games, this team has grown by leaps and bounds. I mean, they're 4-2 right now. Their losses are to Gonzaga, and their losses to a really good Oregon team. That Oregon team, they ended up winning the tournament. They're 8-0. They're really good. But last week they beat number 21 Creighton, and then on Saturday they went out and they beat number 6 Houston. And we know how good Calvin Sampson's team and that program has been now for a number of years. We know that is a huge win, and that is going to play a big part of their resume, beating Creighton and beating Houston. Now, this morning, the KenPom ratings came out, and, I know it's real early, but they're ranked 60th. But this team is going to get better. I know people weren't expecting a whole lot, but I've said this team is going to be okay. They're going to lose some games along the way. Now, they open up conference play on Wednesday night up against Fresno State. Fresno State's not very good. But again, you got to go on the road in the Mountain West Conference, and they'll be tested. And hopefully, they come out and they take care of business. Fresno State right now 3-4, but no significant wins. But the Aztecs have to stay focused, and they got to go up there and take care of business. And then Saturday night, they're taking on Steve Lavin and the USD Toreros at Viejas Arena. That should be a win. USD trying to, once again, kind of sort things out. They lost a lot of players to the transfer portal. But San Diego State's going to be good. They're going to be good. And the great thing about it is if you look at the history of Brian Dutcher, and even going back to Steve Fisher, as the year goes on, their teams do get better. And there's a lot of growth. And remember, at some point in time, you're going to get Reese Waters back. And Reese Waters is probably the best player the Aztecs had. You know, he started much of last year. Towards the end of the year, he really didn't factor in the offense, didn't really shoot the ball, plays great defense. And he's going to come back from that injured foot. And that's what's going to add to the depth and the firepower on this Aztec basketball team. Where they got better for me, they got great backcourt guys. I mean, in college basketball, it's all about the backcourt. I mean, they got dudes in the backcourt that can flat out play against anybody. They're not going to be intimidated. They're going to play tough, hard-nosed defense, and you got some guys that actually can shoot. The Aztecs have not always had guards that could shoot. They could lock you down defensively, but, you know, they had a hard time shooting. But their backcourt is solid. I mean, Nick Boyd's a hell of a player, a really good player. Not only does he play defense, he can score, he rebounds, he passes. Good player. Really good transfer portal get by Brian Dutcher and his staff. And then you take a look at B.J. Davis. Didn't have a great game. When you look at the statistics, he had 5 points and 3 rebounds against Houston, 1 of 5 shooting, 1 or 2 on threes, hit both free throws, but played great defense and played a lot of minutes. Really good player. And then you take a look at the big guys. And this is where this team is going to continue to grow. You know, it's kind of like in baseball, folks. You know, when you got a young ball player and he's trying to learn to hit at the big league level, he has to see big league pitching for a while. And then he can make an adjustment. And he's either going to sink or swim. You just can't expect a guy to come up and all of a sudden, you know, hit the ground running. Every once in a while, you'll have that guy that gets off to a good start. Then they figure out what he can hit, and they start working him over, and then he's got to adjust. Well, in basketball, when you go against big guys, and I say this from personal experience of playing college basketball, you have to figure out how you're going to attack these big guys. And the Aztecs got some really talented big players. They really do. Magoon, Guath had a great weekend. He's not going to score a lot of points, but he'll step out and knock down a 3, but he blocked shots. Against Houston the other day, he ended up, with 5 blocked shots, 6 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 blocked shots. 7-footer. Just learning how to play. And then you got a guy that's been around college basketball for a while, Jared Coleman-Jones, 16 points, 5 rebounds. Look great. And he's gonna help. And then you got Farrell Compton, big guy, freshman, 13 points off the bench, 6 of 11 shooting. As those big guys get better, you're going to see this Aztec team continue to grow. The backcourt's pretty doggone good. And I didn't even mention Wayne McKinney, who, you know, didn't score a lot the other day, but is a damn good player. 16 points. He had 2 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist. But he's a guy capable of coming in and knocking down some shots and scoring in double figures. But he's happy to be an Aztec. He moved over from USD after playing there to come over and play at San Diego State. Great player out of Coronado High School. But I was so excited about that win the other day because I knew they could beat Houston. And they can beat anybody on their schedule. I really believe that. This team plays very connected. I watch a lot of college basketball this time of year. And then you get into conference play. And it's all about now getting guys to jive with one another. You don't have a lot of Division I basketball teams that have 4 and 5 guys that have played, 4 or 5 years together. That's where the mid-majors had a major advantage and why you saw some upset, because they had guys that were fifth-year seniors all playing together, guys that had been in the same program. Now you got guys moving around every year. And really the non-conference season is all about getting everybody to gel and get connected. And this Aztec team, because of the way Brian Dutcher and his staff go about business, they're a tight unit. They're a very tight unit. And this team's going to continue to get better. I was so excited about that win. And, I know that they're not picked to, win the Mountain West Conference. And I think the Mountain West Conference is really good. I watched New Mexico the other night. They got beat by Arizona State. They got a good team. They lost some players. They lost, Jalen House moved on. Mashburn, Jalen House is actually playing for the San Diego Clippers in the G League right now. Mashburn moved on to another school. Toppin, the big freshman last year, he moved on to Texas Tech, but they're still a good team. And Richard Pitino's a good coach. In Boise State, Leon Rice, we know what he's all about. Colorado State will be tough. Utah State, especially when you play them up there, they'll be tough. It's a tough conference, especially when you go on the road. And there are going to be some hiccups along the way. But I'm going to tell you what, Aztec fan, you got to be excited about what you're seeing right now. You really have to be excited about what you're seeing. And again, I think they're just scratching the surface, because I think the more they play together, the better they're going to play. And they're going to have to fight through some difficult times, but they've got the ability. I mean, Brian Dutcher and his staff did a hell of a job recruiting. They brought in, once again, like you expect, high character guys. Okay, just mentioning the other two Division I programs. UCSD right now sitting at 6-2. Of course, they won that big tournament down in Florida a week ago. This week, they open up Big West play up at the Thunderdome against UC Santa Barbara. UC Santa Barbara, a really good team this year. 6-1. UCSD playing great basketball. They play on Saturday night. If you want to come out, Lion Tree Arena, 7 o'clock. They take on Cal State University Bakersfield. Saturday, they played a Division III school, Laverne, pounded them 109-33. 6 Tritons scored in double figures. Tritons now have won 4 straight. They're a really good team. Very well coached, excellent coach. And Eric Olin got a great staff put together. And they're probably one of the best kept secrets sports-wise in San Diego. They won 21 games a year ago, 15-5 in the Big West, finished second in the Big West last year, right behind UC Irvine, who is 8-0 right now. A great basketball team, outstanding coach in Russell Turner. And then USD, they're sitting at 3-4 right now. Last Wednesday, they beat Marion, a small school, beat them 69-64. They actually trailed at halftime 38-31. Tony Duckett, a really nice-looking freshman, by the way, out of Carlsbad High School. I saw Tony play a year ago up there for the Lancers. He had 16 points, and KJ Bradley, 15 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists. Coach Lavin, he had a bunch of really good players last year that were all freshmen, and a bunch of them left to the transfer portal. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Again, tomorrow night, USD will be overtaken on Bobby Hurley Jr., Arizona State, Desert Financial Arena, 7 o'clock. And then Saturday night, as I mentioned earlier, they will travel across town to take on the Aztecs at Viejas Arena at 7 o'clock. Okay, we're going to get into Aztec football. I got home from calling the UCSD basketball game on Saturday and got home in plenty of time. And, man, I'm glad the season's over. I'm glad the Aztec season's over. It was painful, folks. It was a very painful season. Aztecs lost their final 6 games of the year. They finished 3-9, 1 game worse than a year ago. The cupboard was definitely bare. And here's the problem you got with Aztec football. You've tried to put in a new offense that I don't think really got put in the way Coach Lewis and his staff would like. They really struggled to score. They really did. That game against Air Force the other night, Air Force beat them 31-20. Air Force had 404 total yards. Aztecs had 356 total yards. They had a hard time scoring. How about this? Air Force threw 2 passes in the game. Both were complete. One was for a 76-yard touchdown, and the other for a 52-yard completion from wide receiver Brandon Engel to wide receiver Jared Rosnos. 2 pass attempts, 1 touchdown, and another one that went for a 52-yard gain. I know you sell out against the option and all that. Dylan Carson, their big fullback, had a big night. I mean, Air Force did what Air Force does, okay? They pound the rock, and you got to stop them. The Aztec couldn't stop him. He ended up rushing the other night, Carlson, for 125 yards, 2 touchdowns on 24 carries. But here's the state of Aztec football, the way I see it. First of all, I'm going to say this. I don't know Sean Lewis, but I have listened to him all year. I have sat in press conferences hearing him talk. I've asked him questions. I think the guy knows what he's doing. I have no doubt about that. I think he's a very qualified coach. I think that he believes in what he's teaching. He had great success at Kent State, a school that has no football tradition whatsoever. He had a rough first year there and then got that thing on track. And that was going to be a tough go the longer he stayed there to get out. And he got out and he ended up going to Colorado. And we know what happened to him with Deion Sanders and all that a year ago. Deion would be a hard guy to work for, I think. But anyways, he comes to San Diego State, gets this great opportunity, but comes in, and the recruiting the prior couple of years had not been very good for San Diego State, even though there's no school that's ever had a bad recruiting year, by the way. I mean, anytime a head coach talks to the media, oh, man, we're excited about our recruits, blah, 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 blah. But realistically, because a lot of you don't follow it, Aztecs really didn't have good recruiting years under Brady Hoke. They really didn't. They had marginal recruiting years. Don't believe any rankings or don't believe all the garbage you hear. And so then Coach Lewis comes in, doesn't have a full recruiting cycle. That will start on Wednesday because the early signing period starts on Wednesday. And then he had 48 or 42 guys leave the program. And the program was not deep to begin with. And he lost some really good players. He also lost some guys that probably knew they weren't going to fit in. And he and his staff probably talked to some of the guys and go, hey, look, we've looked at you on tape. You're going to get little to no playing time. You may think about wanting to go somewhere else. So 42 guys left. They brought in 48 guys. Well, at that point in time, you're having to take what you can get. Now, this year will be a true sign of how they're doing recruiting. They got a nice new stadium to recruit to. They've got what they call Aztec Fast, which was Aztec Slow Motion this year. I don't know who came up with that slogan, but you can throw that in the circular file. You got to just play good, solid, fundamental football. You got to be able to run the ball. I don't care what program in America, you got to be able to run the football and then pass. And you want to set up the run by being able to pass the football and vice versa. You want to have a balanced offense. And they've got to go back to work. They got to get better offensive linemen. They've got to get better defensive linemen. And then I think things are going to start coming together. But Coach Lewis has got a lot of work to do. And like I said, I think he's a really good coach. I think we got to give him time. But, man, sometimes you got to go backwards before you can go forwards. I mean, this team was awful at the end of the year. And I know injuries always play a part in it. I don't really care. If I'm an Aztec fan, which I am and have been since I was a little boy, I want to see football wins. Everybody got tired of Rocky Long. They were winning, but they wanted to see more offense. Well, you know what? I've always said this, be careful what you wish for. For me, I want to win football games. At the end of 60 minutes, I want to walk off the field or walk to my car and drive home with an Aztec win. I don't care how you win, as long as you win. That's the main thing. And Rocky was winning, 9, 10, 11 games a year. Rocky Long had a hell of a tenure here. I mean, long tenure and successful and a great coach and a great guy. A big Rocky Long fan. I was a big Rocky Long fan before he ever took the San Diego State job. I liked him when he was at UCLA as a defensive coordinator for Bob Toledo. I liked him when he was the head coach down there in New Mexico. I used to interview him every year because I was doing the Aztec games on radio, and I would always interview the opposing coach the week of. I would always get off from taping an interview with Rocky Long and tell my colleagues at the different radio stations here in San Diego that I worked, man, I love that guy. I wish he was the Aztec coach. And all of a sudden, boom, he ended up becoming the Aztec head football coach after being an assistant there for a short time for Brady Hoke. And he had a great run. But I think I got to believe Rocky and the administration were button heads. I think the administration they were hearing from their fan base, hey, we want a more exciting product. And I think they wanted Rocky to fire some coaches. And Rocky, loyal guy, didn't want to fire coaches. So he basically fired himself, saying, I don't want to be head coach any longer. That's what I truly believe happened. And nobody ever talks about it because Rocky Long won't talk about it. I'm just putting some facts together and coming up with my own hypothesis on that, my educated guess. And then you brought in Brady Hoke, a lazy hire by J.D. Wicker. No other way to explain that. It was a lazy hire. Didn't have to do anything. Hey, Brady, you move your office back to the head coaching job. You're the guy. I never bought into that. Okay. Brady Hoke's a nice man, but I was never really all enthralled with him, even the first time before he went to Michigan. But now we're sitting here at the end of 2024, and the Aztecs are 3-9. How are they going to grow and get better? Well, their quarterback, Daniel Neal's a very good competitive kid. He took a beating this year. Physically, he got beat up. But next year, going through what he went through, he's going to be better going forward. I'm really anxious to see how the Aztecs are going to attack the transfer portal. The word out of Los Angeles this morning is that Miller Moss, the quarterback who had been the starter much of the year for the Trojans, apparently he's going to hit the transfer portal. Would the Aztecs even entertain bringing Miller Moss down? And I guess if they brought Miller Moss down, that means Daniel Neal would probably transfer. I'd be interested to see how they attack this quarterback position. And by no way am I going to demean Daniel Neal. I think he's got a lot of potential. But he's a young quarterback. You got to get him more weapons. Marquez Cooper did a nice job. Congratulations to him. One of the only backs in college football to go over 5,000 yards and one of the few backs that has had over 1,000 yards at 3 different universities. Had a hell of a career. Man, that catch the other night, he made that one-handed catch. Man, that was fantastic. He had 3 touchdowns the other night in his final college game. But the Aztecs are going to have to reload, folks. They've got to reload. I know NIL is going to play a big part in this. But Aztec football, you got to be better. When you're the only game in town football-wise, no offense to USD, but they play a lower level of football. When you're the only big-time football program in town, you got to be better. This is unacceptable. And this starts at the top. This starts with the school president, the athletic director, then down to the football coach. You got to give him every type of support you can. And I'm sure they're trying. I don't think they're out there smiling on a Monday morning after getting beat by Air Force and finishing 3-9. Now, Wednesday, I mentioned the early signing period. They can sign players starting on Wednesday for a week. Then the late signing period will be in February. And the transfer portal opens up on December 9th. So that'll be next Monday. Now here's the deal, folks. There's some Aztec players, some really good Aztec players that may be going in the portal. I'm not going to mention names now, but I've been told a couple of their significant guys could be going in the transfer portal. I hope that's not the case because once you go into the portal, you're not coming out and staying at San Diego State. So I'm hoping between now and when the portal opens, San Diego State will find a way to keep a couple of their star players. And I'm sure they've already been doing their due diligence and working on that. But that's something that has to happen. Because one of them's on the offensive side, one of them's on the defensive side, I hear. But again, I'm not going to mention names until they officially enter the portal. Out of respect to those players and out of respect to San Diego State, and give them an opportunity to work on an NIL deal for these players. And if you follow Aztec football, you probably know the direction I'm going. If you don't follow Aztec football, we'll see what in the coming days what happens. So that's where you're at on that. A lot of work to be done for Sean Lewis and his staff. And I also think, and this is no offense to Coach Lewis, it's just the way the game has gone. I really think he needs to hire an offensive coordinator that he trusts. I think that would behoove him. Right now, he's got offensive coaches that one coach works with the run game, the other works with the pass game. I think you need to have one guy that can bring it all together. And I know that's Sean Lewis right now, but there's so many things the head coach has to do that, you can't be everybody everything to everybody, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I think he's trying to do too much. And I think he's got a good heart. I think he's a good man. I think he's really qualified for this job. But he's going to have to delegate a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball. And we'll see where it goes. But I would encourage him to seriously consider hiring an offensive coordinator, take some of the pressure off of him, and allow him to, wander around on the defensive side of the ball, be involved with special teams. All areas need improvement, even though they did solve their field goal kicking situation. And ended up being very good. Okay, a couple of other things. USC, they get beat by Notre Dame the other day, 49-35. It looked like they were going to be in it, and then Christian Gray picked off Maeva's pass, took it back 99 yards, and then, they give up another 100-yard return, get beat 49-35. They finished 6-6, 4-5 in the Big Ten. Notre Dame, everybody tells me how great Notre Dame is. We'll see when they get to the playoffs. I've heard that before. 11-1, great record, but let's see what they do against some of the bigger competition. I don't even know what to tell you about USC. I mean, Lincoln Riley, what a disappointment. In 3 years, what a disappointment. Yeah, I mean, in 2 of those years, he had Caleb Williams, who's a hell of a player. I mean, he was the #1 pick in the entire NFL draft. And last year was a disaster, and this year was even worse. And then UCLA beat Fresno State. They got a late score, beat Fresno State 20-13. The Bruins finished 5-7. Deshaun Foster finished his first season as the Bruins head coach, 5-7, 3-6 in the Big Ten. You know what? I think he did a pretty good job. I think Deshaun Foster and his staff did a better job than USC and their staff. I don't know what you think about that. Neither of them, are jumping for joy. I mean, Trojans can go to a bowl game. It wouldn't even surprise me if the Trojans bailed out of a bowl game, because we've seen the Trojans. Now, they came down here last year to the Holiday Bowl, and they came down with a purpose, and they were ready to play against Louisville, and they smacked Louisville right in the mouth. And that was Miller Moss's coming out party. But we've also seen USC historically go to lesser bowls than the big bowls and just kind of roll around and go out there and embarrass themselves. So be interesting to see what they do. They are bowl eligible. UCLA comes up a game short of being bowl eligible. So that's where that's at. Okay. Going to get to the college football brawls. I don't know why this upset me so much. I guess because I coached every sport in high school. I coached college baseball. Have I been in brawls as a player, as a coach? Yeah, I have. I don't know if I'm proud of it, but all the brawls I was in were like during the competition, not after or before for popping off. I mean, you might yell at a guy after a game. I don't even remember yelling at a guy after the game. I mean, during the game, you get after them pretty good, whether it was in high school football or college basketball, baseball, you get barking a little bit from the dugout, or if there's a beanball war, you empty the benches. I've been in basketball fights, been in football fights, been in baseball brawls, but they've all been like during the competition. The only time I can remember getting into my team getting into a fight is when my last game I coached at Torrey Pines in football. And it was on the last play. Our guy hit their quarterback late, no doubt about it. And the bench was emptied. And we went out, me and Frank Chambliss, God rest his soul, a great guy. Him and I went out and broke the fight up. And it was over and done with. It didn't really escalate. What I witnessed, and I watched the Michigan-Ohio State game the other day. What I witnessed the other day, there were so many people in the wrong. Both universities, by the way, yesterday got fined $100,000. They should have got fined about $250,000. What I witnessed on Saturday, not only in the Ohio State-Michigan game, but, later in the day, you had North Carolina State beating North Carolina. They wanted to plant the flag at midfield. Then Arizona State beat Arizona 49-7. That wasn't a shocker. And one of the defensive linemen, I think, went out and tried to plant Sparky's pitchfork right in the middle of the Arizona field. I mean, Arizona's a bad team. Like you're going to prove something by taking Sparky's pitchfork and planting that right there in the middle of the Wildcats field. I mean, it's hard to plant anything when you're trying to do it on AstroTurf, I might add. But and that player that did it had played at Arizona a year ago. But I mean, you had all these problems. Then you had Florida. They beat Florida State and they planted the flag at midfield. And Mike Norvell, who's had a rough year, got on Billy Napier. Napier, probably said, "Hey, I'm sorry about it, whatever." It was just a mess after the game. And then you had police at Ohio State pepper spraying ball players at midfield. I mean, it was a crazy event. And players from both teams got sprayed. It wasn't like the police officers were just spraying the Michigan guys in the eye. They were spraying the Ohio State guys as well. And they didn't like spray them straight in the eye. They sprayed it out in the air. And, I don't know how many guys were really affected by it. But where are the coaches? This is the thing that I don't understand. There's a lot of things I don't understand that are going on in sports at all levels, even the youth sports. Guys popping off. Take control of your team. You're the head coach. Talk to your guys. I was talking to an official, a football official, who's been calling games in this town for over 40 years. I don't understand why football players get these unsportsmanlike penalties after they score touchdowns. They know what the rules are, but they just don't care. They don't care that they hurt their team with a 15-yard penalty, like spiking the ball or spinning the ball or turning around and taunting the guy they beat for a touchdown. Coaches, do you even talk to these players in practice about the etiquette? Act like you've been there before. Okay? I mean, I will tell you right now, I think all coaches ought to tell their players right now, when you score a touchdown, you do one of two things. You drop the ball after you score, you just drop it at your feet, let the referee pick it up, or you toss it or hand it to the nearest official. But it doesn't work that way. I can't begin to tell you how many times I watch high school games, college games. Though I don't care about the pro. Pros can throw the ball in the stands, they can drop it. I don't care what they do. But in high school and college, drop the football or hand it or toss it to the nearest official. I just don't understand why you're being a selfish player to get that 15-yard penalty. Because that 15-yard penalty could be big on the kickoff, especially late in the ball game. But I blame coach for the fighting that went on the other day. It's totally unacceptable. I don't ever want to see any team ever attempt to put their flag on the logo of their opposing team. That's just wrong. That's rubbing it in. Go to the locker room, celebrate with your team, celebrate with your coaches, celebrate with your mom and dad, celebrate with your girlfriend, and celebrate with all the kids you go to school with. Get the hell off the field. If you want to shake hands with the other team, great. Shake hands with them. If not, be a poor sport and walk to the locker room. You got to win with class. You got to lose with dignity. And everybody's coming down in Ohio State. Ohio State wasn't innocent in that. But I totally get it. I wouldn't want anybody planting a flag on my field after they kick my ass. That's just disrespectful. Totally disrespectful. And then you go back to Friday night, and I don't know what the hell happened in that game. That was awful. It was terrible sportsmanship. And again, that goes to the head coach, Matt Rule at Nebraska. What a turd. What an absolute turd. I can't believe that his captains, that are supposed to be the leaders of his team, are going to go out and not shake hands with the Iowa captains when they come out for the coin toss. I don't care what's said in the media. I don't care what bulletin board material. If a guy reaches out to shake hands with you, you shake hands with him before the coin toss. That was just bullshit. Total bullshit. I'm sorry. Matt Rule, I don't know what his deal is. They were trying to make a big deal about him walking through a warm-up drill. I watched the tape. That was blown out of proportion. I'll give him that. But that's bullshit. When another man extends his hand to you before an athletic competition and you're getting ready to have the coin toss, you shake hands with them. Total bullshit. I can't begin to tell you how irritated I was by that. And I was irritated. I know guys are going to get fired up. And, during the heat of battle, it's one thing. But once the gun goes off, folks, and you say something to me, it becomes personal. That's a different story. But to plant the flag on your arch rival in their stadium after you beat them, well, that just proves that you're a jackass. That's all it proves to me. Go to the locker room and celebrate. And I don't blame Ohio State. I don't blame North Carolina one bit. I don't blame Florida State for being upset. The coaches on both sides, you have to get control. And there's those pictures of Ryan Day just kind of standing there. Ryan Day was in a daze because he got his butt kicked and now probably wonders if he's still going to have a job. He looked in the ozone layer to me. But again, you got to win with class and lose with dignity. And really bad sportsmanship. But I see it at the high school level too. And it all comes down to coaching. I don't care. If it's your best player and you got to sit his ass on the bench, sit his ass on the bench. Yeah, I got news for you, especially for some of you young coaches or maybe some of you old coaches that forgot about the word discipline. If you get your best player and he steps out of line, you put his ass on the bench. The other guys on the team notice that and go, oh, man, Coach so-and-so put Billy on the bench. Man, if I did that, what do you think he'd do to me? Might strike the fear of God in him. But what I witnessed really gnawed at me all weekend long. It really did. So that's what I have to say on that. But a lot of discipline needs to be. And now everybody is trying to be the player's friend. When you're a coach, you can't be their friend. You got to respect them. When you're off the field, hey, they're the same as you. But on the field, it's time to go to work, and there's a certain way you're supposed to act as an athlete. And it's not acting like a jackass. And I saw a lot of jackasses running around all over the country over the weekend. So, give me your take on that. By the way, we do this show on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9:30. We took last Friday off, and we'll take some time off over the holidays as well at Christmas time. But we're going to try to be here, get you as much good information as possible. The only thing I ask, please subscribe to our channel. We're working our way towards 3,000. Like to, build that up and keep it rolling into 2025. And again, you can follow me on Facebook at John Quintera and on X at Coach Quintera 44. Okay, a couple of other things I want to get to. That thing with college football brawls really bugged me. And what Nebraska did to the captains of Iowa, just crap. Total crap. Okay, baseball news and notes. Not a lot. How about the Dodgers? They gave our buddy Tommy Edman. I'll try to get Tommy Edman on before the spring training gets underway. But Tommy Edman signs a deal, a little over $70 million with the Dodgers. That's a great sign for the Dodgers. Tommy Edman's a hell of a baseball player and a great guy, high character guy. We know he went to La Jolla Country Day, played for his dad, John Edman. I'll try to get Tommy on before spring training. And we're going to get other people besides Padres on this show, by the way. If guys are from San Diego or I have a connection with, we're going to put them on. We like to talk ball. We're just not going to fill you with Padre talk on morning, noon, or night. Right now, there's not a whole lot of Padre talk. I saw Luis Camposano hit a home run in winter ball the other night, and I noticed one thing. He's not doesn't have his open stance any longer. He's closed that front side up, looked like trying to hit with a little more power. Hit a nice home run that I saw on tape last night. But nothing going on with the Padres. I don't know what Padres are going to do. They got a lot of work to do. I mean, right now they're sitting here wondering who their left fielder is going to be, who their starting catcher is going to be. Maybe Xander Bogaerts is going to be the shortstop. Who's going to roll out there deeper into the rotation behind the guys they've already got back for next year that are healthy? By the way, the winter meetings open up next Sunday down in Dallas. So maybe things will start to percolate a little there on the Padres. We'll have to wait and see on that. Last thing I'm going to get to today. Chargers won yesterday. They didn't score an offensive touchdown. The Chargers player of the week, it's nobody that wore a Charger uniform yesterday. Yeah, it was Kirk Cousins, the quarterback of Atlanta. He was awful. If you watch the game, some of those passes, well, 3 of the 4 interceptions were just so bad. I mean, here's a veteran quarterback who's had a pretty good career. I mean, those were awful interceptions. That one he threw to Tarheeb Still went back 61 yards, a pick 6. That really turned the game around. And Still had another one, but they had 4 INTs yesterday. Chargers didn't score an offensive touchdown. They had Still 61-yard return for a touchdown, and they had 3 Cameron Dicker field goals. That guy's pretty good, 45, 51, and 34. He's a good field goal kicker. They finally found one. It's been a while. It's been a long time since John Carney kicked for the Chargers. But they won yesterday. They're 8-4. They got Kansas City next Sunday night. Chiefs looking to clinch the division for the 9th straight year. They win that game, they win the division outright, 9th straight year. Chargers in the playoff hunt right now. If we were playing the playoffs tomorrow, Chargers are in with an 8-4 record. We'll see how they finish. I think they're going to make the playoffs because some of the other teams really suck this year. They're pretty bad. And the Rams yesterday got a very nice win on the road, 21-14. Over the New Orleans Saints. Next Sunday night, they have the opportunity to take on the Buffalo Bills, who clinched their 5th straight AFC East title last night, spanking the 49ers. Man, the 49ers. My boy John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they're going to have to go back to work. McCaffrey going to be gone the remainder of the year, but Buffalo coming to SoFi Stadium next Sunday night for the Sunday night game of the week. So there we have it, folks. We gave you a lot to cover today. If there are any questions out there, let's get to those. Again, we'll be in on Wednesday, and we'll be in on Friday. Brian, good morning, Coach. SDSU football is a huge letdown. Can't disagree with that. I went to Oregon State, and wow, that was miserable. The cost to be there was high, and I know it was early, but it hasn't gotten better. I agree. I was at the Oregon State game. Thought the Aztecs could play with them, but they certainly could. But Boltman, 12-2-7-8. I love Boltman. In fact, when the Chargers were trying to be saved, I had a nice picture with Boltman one night when I was out at Qualcomm Stadium. They were having a big meeting to try to save the Chargers. Boltman, one of my favorite guys. But the NFL, interesting time right now. I think it's going to get pretty good going down the stretch. You got some mediocre teams. You got some other teams like, Kansas City, Detroit playing great football. The Bills are playing great football. Kevin O'Connell, the former La Costa Canyon and San Diego State quarterback at the Minnesota Vikings. They're 10-2 right now. They're playing great football. So anyways, we're going to get out of here, folks. Thank you very much. Again, please subscribe to the channel. We'll be here Wednesday at 9:30, and we'll continue to keep you abreast of what's going on with the Padres. Padres have been very, very quiet over the holiday weekend. We'll see if things start picking up. And again, the winter meetings start next Sunday. Again, follow me on Facebook at John Quintera and on X at Coach Quintera 44. Until Wednesday morning at 9:30. Have a great day, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.